You have seen this face before. She turns toward you over her shoulder, mouth slightly parted, her gaze meeting yours with an expression that has never been fully named. Not quite surprise, not quite invitation, not quite sorrow. A blue and gold headscarf, a dark background, and at her ear, catching the only other light in the painting, a single luminous drop, a pearl. She is one of the most recognized faces in Western art. Books have been written about her. A best-selling novel placed her in Vermeer's household as a servant girl. A film was made. Millions of people visit the Marchuis Museum in The Hague each year, specifically to stand in front of her. And she does not exist, not in the way you think she does. She is not a portrait. She is not a record of a real person who sat for Vermeer, whose name was noted somewhere, whose life can be traced. She has no name in any document connected to Vermeer. She has no identity. She was not painted to commemorate someone or to capture a likeness for posterity. She was painted as an exercise, a demonstration of skill, a study in light and expression and the suggestion of personality. And the person looking out at you from this canvas may be entirely invented. But that is only the beginning of what this painting is hiding, because the earring that gives her her name, the luminous drop that anchors the entire composition and catches every viewer's eye, it is almost certainly not a pearl. What a Tronie is. To understand what Vermeer was making when he painted this image, you need a word that most people outside the art world have never encountered: Tronie. It is a Dutch term, used specifically in the 17th century for a particular type of painting that occupied the space between portrait and character study. A Tronie depicted a face, often in exotic or historical costume, often in a dramatically lit setting, not to record a specific person, but to explore a type, an expression, a mood, a quality of light falling across particular features. Tronies were common in the Dutch Golden Age. Rembrandt made dozens of them, using his own face, the faces of his studio assistants, old men from the street, anyone whose features offered interesting material. They were sold not as commissioned portraits, but as finished works, available for purchase by anyone who found them appealing. They were, in the language of the modern art market, speculative works, made on the artist's own initiative, rather than to fulfill a specific request. Girl with a pearl earring is a Tronie. The figure in it may be based on a real person, a model Vermeer used, someone in his household, someone whose face he found useful. But she was not painted as that person. She was painted as a type, the slightly parted lips, the over-the-shoulder glance, the suggestion of interrupted motion. These are compositional choices designed to create an impression of caught intimacy, of a moment just before or just after something, of a connection between the figure and the viewer that feels personal but belongs to no one in particular. This is why she has no name. She was never given one. The title "Girl with a Pearl Earring" was attached to the painting centuries after Vermeer made it, by catalogers trying to describe what they saw. Vermeer himself left no title, no record, no letter discussing this work. She emerged from his studio into the world unnamed, and unnamed she has remained, which is perhaps why she has attracted so many attempts to name her. The earring that changes everything. Now look at the earring. It hangs from her ear as a single drop, perfectly round, catching the light with a soft inner glow that seems to come from within rather than from the candle or window illuminating the rest of the scene. It is painted with remarkable economy, just a few strokes, a small highlight, a suggestion of translucency, and it reads, instantly and without question, as a pearl, except that it almost certainly is not. Pearls in 17th century Dutch painting are identifiable by their characteristic surface quality, a soft, slightly diffuse luster that comes from the layered nacre structure of the real thing. They catch light differently from glass or polished metal. Vermeer, who painted several actual pearls in other works, the pearl necklace in Woman with a Pearl Necklace, the earrings in Woman in Blue Reading a Letter, rendered them with a specific technique that captures precisely this quality. The earring in Girl with a Pearl Earring does not have it. Art historians and conservators who have studied the painting closely have noted that the earring's optical properties are inconsistent with pearl. It is too bright, too simply rendered, its highlight too sharp. The leading hypothesis, supported by several researchers who have examined the painting in detail, is that what Vermeer painted is a glass or tin drop, a piece of costume jewelry, common enough in the 17th century, worn to suggest wealth rather than to display it. The girl in this painting is not wearing a pearl. She is wearing an imitation. Why this matters is not a question of material value. It is a question of what the painting is doing. If the earring is false, then the image contains a layer of deliberate illusion that goes beyond the illusion of paint itself. The figure who looks at you so directly, whose gaze seems to offer something genuine and immediate, is also wearing something designed to appear to be what it is not. She is already, in some sense, a performance. Who she might be. The absence of documentation has not stopped speculation. Over the centuries, several candidates have been proposed for the identity of the model, and two have attracted more serious attention than the others. The first is Maria, Vermeer's eldest daughter, who would have been around 12 or 13 at the time the painting is estimated to have been made. Some researchers have noted a resemblance between the figure in this painting and the woman in a later Vermeer work, and have argued that Vermeer used family members as models regularly, as many painters of his era did. If Maria sat for this painting, then the Tronie has a personal dimension that changes its emotional register. A father studying his daughter's face with the detachment of a craftsman and the attention of a parent simultaneously. The second candidate emerged from a more unusual direction. A forensic art specialist working with the Mauritshuis in 2020 used facial recognition software and three-dimensional modeling on high-resolution scans of the painting in an attempt to construct a more complete picture of the figure's face. The analysis could not produce a match to any historical individual. There are no photographs from the 17th century, and portrait databases are too limited for the technology to be genuinely useful. What the study did confirm was that the face in the painting shows signs of having been constructed rather than transcribed. Certain proportions are idealized in ways that real faces typically are not. The features are too balanced. The expression is too perfectly calibrated. The woman and girl with a pearl earring may not be based on any single person at all, but may be an assembled ideal. A face designed to be maximally compelling to the viewer, built from whatever sources Vermeer found most useful. If that is true, the painting is not a study of a person. It is a study of attention itself, of what a face needs to do to hold a stranger's gaze across 3.5 centuries. Vermeer's silence. What makes all of this speculation necessary is the almost total absence of documentation surrounding Vermeer's life and work. He was born in Delft in 1632 and died there in 1675, at 43, leaving behind a wife, 11 children, and significant debts. He was not famous in his lifetime in the way that Rembrandt was famous or Rubens. He worked slowly. He produced, by current estimates, between 34 and 37 paintings across his entire career, a remarkably small body of work for a professional painter of his era, and a number that suggests either that he painted only when he had specific commissions, or that he worked with a deliberateness bordering on paralysis. He left almost no letters. He gave no recorded interviews. No students described his methods. No contemporaries wrote accounts of visiting his studio. The documents that survive relating to Vermeer are almost entirely financial. Records of debts, of property transactions, of the inventory made after his death when his widow was trying to settle his affairs. His technique, the extraordinary precision of his light, the uncanny stillness of his interiors, the way his figures seem to exist in a suspended moment that has the quality of a held breath, has been the subject of intense study and considerable controversy. Some researchers believe he used a camera obscura to project images onto his canvas as a compositional aid. Others dispute this. No one knows for certain, because Vermeer did not say. Into this silence, Girl with a Pearl Earring has fallen and stayed. The painting's second life. After Vermeer's death, the painting disappeared into the general flow of the Dutch art market. It was sold, resold, and eventually forgotten as a Vermeer. By the 19th century, it was attributed to other painters. It hung in various collections under various names, its authorship uncertain, its value correspondingly modest. In 1881, it appeared at an auction in The Hague and was purchased for 2 guilders and 30 cents, roughly equivalent to a few euros today. The buyer was a collector named Arnoldus Andries de Tombe, who seems to have recognized something in it. He had it cleaned and restored. He held it for decades. And when he died in 1902, he left it to the Mauritshuis, where conservators reattributed it to Vermeer with confidence. 2 guilders and 30 cents. That is what the most visited painting in the Netherlands sold for, 140 years before it became the subject of international museum exhibitions, a novel that sold 12 million copies, and a major Hollywood film. It sat in an auction house in The Hague, unsigned, misattributed, and nobody knew what they were looking at. What the painting is really doing. Here is the thesis I keep arriving at, the more time I spend with this image. Girl with a Pearl Earring is not a painting about a girl. It is a painting about looking, about the specific transaction that takes place between a face and a viewer. The way a painted face can seem to offer recognition, intimacy, the suggestion of interiority, while being made entirely of pigment on canvas and containing, in strict terms, nothing at all. Vermeer constructed this face to do one thing: to hold your attention. The over-the-shoulder turn creates the sense of interrupted motion. She was going somewhere. She has stopped. She will not stop for long. The parted lips suggest she is about to speak. She has not yet spoken. She will not speak. The gaze is direct without being aggressive, open without being vacant, aware without being knowable. Every element of this composition is calibrated to produce in the viewer a feeling of almost having something, almost catching someone, almost being recognized, almost being about to learn something important. And then she does not speak. She does not turn fully. She does not complete the motion that the painting has permanently suspended. She is not wearing a real pearl. She is not a real person. She has no name. The painting she lives in was bought for 2 guilders by a man who was the only one in the room paying attention. And still, after 3.5 centuries, you cannot look away. I'd love to know what you think. Does it change anything for you to know she's a Tronie rather than a portrait? And did you notice before today that the earring might not be a pearl? Let me know in the comments. I'd really love to hear what this painting does to you when you look at it.